Welcome, movie fans. Thanks for joining us for episode 107 of Reading Between the Reels, the premier podcast of Sam Elliott Mustache Appreciation. If you're a new listener, we're so glad you found us. If you've been enjoying the show, please subscribe and review us on iTunes or Spotify. You can also support the show by posting on your socials and joining our Facebook group. I'm Craig Dickinson alongside Corey Heitschmidt and Justin Eldon. We're back together, guys. How's it going?
Fantastic. I tell you what, I'm excited. We're the three amigos again. We're ready. We're all back together.
Justin, how are you doing?
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Wow. Guys, it's so good to be back doing this. So, it's kind of been hit or miss. We did the last episode together, and we're back again doing Hulk. But before we get to Hulk, what have we been watching this week? Corey, I'm going to start with you. What have you been watching?
So I'm back in Star Trek still, working my way through that. And my wife and I, we finished up our show Reba. We started watching Matlock. And with Kathy
New Matlock.
Bates. New Matlock.
How old are you, Corey?
Matlock.
Matlock.
Oh, Matlock, we're in the old show. No, we started watching with Kathy Bates. And I'm going to tell you, I've always loved Kathy Bates because, one, she's a spitting image for what my mom used to look like. Like, my mom used to look like Kathy Bates, and it was always great. Scary when she did the movie Misery, because then my mom was like, oh, don't make my mom angry. But no, this show has caught me. When Janice first popped it on, I thought, I don't want to watch this show. But then right away at the end of the first episode, the very end, most shows do not do this, and it's literally the last minute, they hook you in, and you go, holy cow, I'm stuck now. And now the whole season, I don't know how they're going to wrap this up, but I am invested in this show. So Matlock, check it out if you haven't. But the only problem, here's something. I thought the whole season was out, so we were binge watching it, right? Over the course of 3 days, we started to watch it, and we found out we caught up to live TV. And now we're having to wait every week for an episode to drop, like a couple of 90s chumps. Like, well, we just wait for our show to come out, like on Tuesday. What kind of world are we living in? Give me the whole season so I can stream it. I'm so sick of this wait every week. Like, oh, where's it gonna go? Anyway, so we're living like that again. What about you guys?
Justin, what about you?
I'm still making my way through Lost, which
nice.
I'm still just riding high, assuming that it's not going to let me down even a little bit at the end. I'm just going to pretend like I don't know that it does. So that's really good so far in season 3. I also saw Twisters this week.
Nice.
Which I know Craig really likes, but I was kind of like, eh.
Yeah, it's not great. I just thought, I enjoyed it. I didn't feel like I wasted my time watching it. So
that's fair. I was just very aware of every time they were giving me exposition dumps. But
Sure.
That's like my wife gets mad at me because I point out exposition dumps. So I don't know. I feel like I'm more aware of those than I should be. But I like it when they do it in a subtle way. And that movie was not subtle. They have to re-explain how science works to the scientists that have been doing this for most of their life. And I'm like, that's for the audience. That's not for the character.
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, it was enjoyable. It was pretty good.
All right. Well, I finished The Penguin because that was going week to week, Corey, which was rough, but it was a good show. That's really good. So if you haven't finished, if you liked The Batman, then I think that you'll like The Penguin. It's the same universe and very totally a little darker than that, but pretty much on par with that. And then as that wrapped up, then Dune Prophecy, which is a prequel to Denis Villeneuve's Dune. That's 2 episodes of that out so far. I've been watching that and been enjoying that. It's very slow, but I don't mind that stuff. Especially in the first, there's like a mystery box thing with some of the characters and stuff, and I'm okay with waiting for that. I love that universe, and so I'm okay with slowly building through things. And there's a lot of the Bene Gesserit are basically the main characters in that, which they are also later in the books. So I was familiar with that and enjoying that.
What is that streaming on?
It's on Max.
Ooh, because I need to watch that.
Yeah,
that looked good. I like that.
Yeah, it very much is the same universe as the films. Like you can tell tonally and also visually it fits that, and the music as well. Yellowstone is 3 episodes in. I'm watching that week to week as well. That's been interesting. There's the big thing that happens when they first came back. Again, I don't want to spoil for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. And then a couple of movies that I watched. I finally watched Beetlejuice, which...
Oh, I haven't watched it yet. Don't spoil it for me. I think everybody dies at the end.
Here's the thing with Beetlejuice. It's a lot like... the development for that is a lot like Superman Returns, where they were going to make a sequel for like 20 years, and there's a whole lot of ideas that they had bandied about, and just about all of them show up in this film.
Oh.
It's just really muddled. So go in with low expectations and you might enjoy it. There's a few moments I really liked. Michael Keaton is great, as always.
Is it a similar style to the first one?
Oh, yeah. No, it feels like it's a true sequel, but there's just too much going on. It's overstuffed. But
I did catch on TikTok the rage against the one guy that dies in it, the little shrunken head dude. Everybody was upset over him getting killed.
Bob, yeah.
Bob.
And on the complete other side of that, I finally, for those of us that are listeners that listen to our 100th episode, one thing a lot of us had not seen, Citizen Kane. I have not seen Citizen Kane.
I don't know if I can watch it.
Why? Corey, it's good.
Is it good?
I just feel like we have to. As
you should.
I mean, if we're gonna like talk about movies, we need to watch that movie.
You got to watch that, Corey, and you got to watch The Godfather. I personally think
I'll
The Godfather
put it on the list.
is a better film, but that's just preference. But it's exceptional, and the fact that it's Orson Welles, it's 1941. He's 26 and is the writer director, and then like the character that he plays ages up into his 70s convincingly. Is pretty remarkable. It's a tour de force. It's complete auteur. It's really interesting filmmaking, storytelling. I don't want to spoil too much because I want you guys to go check it out. But
is the movie set in 1941 or was it made in 1941?
Both, but a lot of it's sold. A lot of it's sold in flashback. So
because
it basically starts with he's died at the beginning, and then you kind of get to see the progression, and it's kind of told through different perspectives. And so there's the unreliable narrator thing, and some really interesting cinematography as well. So
I gotta tell you, the part about that catches me is because of our last couple podcast episodes with Blade and with what's the one we just did last time? X2,
yeah,
right. Where you go back into some of these older shows and the sets are not green screen, the sets are actual sets that really took time and work, and actors acted differently. They had to be a little bit different, right? You go back to Blade, it was very different than even X2. And you go back even further. And so some of these older shows like that, just to see how people act and talk and carry on the movie telling is quite different than some of the stuff today where, we can edit that out, we can crop that, we can fix that. It's different world, different style. So it might be worth it to go see it. All right.
Yeah, well, just to put a little plug in for the This to Digital thing I got from Vudu, now Fandango at home, I was able to pick it up there, and I was on like a old classic movie kick. I got that, and I haven't watched the other ones yet, but I got Vertigo, I got North by Northwest, both are Hitchcock movies.
I love Vertigo.
I haven't seen it yet, and The Maltese Falcon. It's on the list. So, I mean, these are films that are like classics and are referenced all the time, and so I feel like as a cinephile I want to have these in the back of my brain as I'm watching, they're clearly influencing many other things, and most of these old films I've watched, like I watched Casablanca several years back, and was like, yes, it really is as good as people say. So
you just said the word cinephile, which in my experience every time that word is said somebody goes, can you just explain what that
movie
is?
Lover.
Lover of movies.
Lover of
big
fan of movies, and liked. I'm not an expert by any means, but I like to consider myself if you read lots of books, you're well read. Are you well viewed? I guess I don't know. I've seen the classics.
If you've listened to this podcast ever for a long length of time, you know that Craig is an expert. So
yeah,
we are riding your coattails, sir.
I know some stuff. I'd like to know more. So, but we're not talking about those classic movies. What are we talking about, Corey?
We are talking about, and it's the reason I'm sitting here shirtless, people, because all my muscles. It's a good thing this is a podcast and not video yet, because I'm sitting here shirtless. None of you asked why. Was because
I was wondering why you were green. you know?
That's right. My muscles all ripped off. We are watching Ang Lee's Hulk from 2003.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Justin, what's your overall thoughts on... we'll come back to Corey. What's your overall thoughts on Ang Lee's Hulk?
We're going to give Corey a chance for that.
I'll get dressed again.
Yeah, he needs to cool off. I don't know, Craig. I don't know what I feel about this movie.
Yeah.
I probably haven't seen this movie since like 2010. Like I watched it quite a bit when it first came out because I loved superheroes, and there weren't a whole lot of superhero films to watch in those days. But I really liked it before, and now as I watch it with a more critical eye, there are so many parts of it that I like, and so many parts of it that I just don't understand why they did that thing. Mm-hmm. I feel like it could have been like overall it has a lot of really good elements, right? But I feel like the editing could have been a little bit tighter. It probably could have been 30 minutes shorter, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I think a couple of the roles were a little miscast.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear about that.
The writing in some areas seemed really weak, but at the same time, those roles that, for example, Eric Bana as Bruce Banner, which Banner, that's confusing. There were some scenes where I'm like, man, that guy's nailing it, and other scenes where it's almost like he's reading his lines off a teleprompter or something. And it's just the entire third act I have issue with, and maybe we'll get more into that later. It's very reminiscent of like Spider-Man 3 and Batman vs Superman, where they introduce like the main villain right at the very end, and they don't give it like enough time to ruminate. But there's so much of it I liked too. Like for the time, the CGI was really awesome. A lot of the fight scenes with well, I don't know if they're fight scenes. I guess the Hulk smashing scenes were really awesome. The soundtrack was really awesome. Like Danny Elfman knows what he's doing, right? Like he does it well. But overall, I think, okay, I'm going to steal Craig's line here. I think you said this movie is a movie that's less than the sum of its parts. Was that your line?
It was one comment I made, yeah.
Yeah, it should have added up to something better than it was, and it wasn't for lack of trying. But it's a fun watch. I liked watching it, but I just don't know if it's a good movie, you know?
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that and see if we change our minds or come to some conclusion on that. Corey,
yeah,
what'd you say?
I'd like my mind to be changed.
Corey, thoughts on the Hulk?
Well, now let's talk about the Hulk, because I think the Hulk as a character is very difficult to sum up. This was the first Hulk movie with Bana, the Incredible Hulk with Norton, and then to the current Hulk we have with oh my gosh, I just blanked on his name like 2 seconds.
Mark Ruffalo.
And I think each one has carried something different on their approaches and how they've done it. But I will say, I remember when this one came out, I was so excited to go see it because it's Hulk, right? I mean, The Incredible Hulk, we all grew up watching The Incredible Hulk as a TV show. And you look back now and you're like, oh my gosh, that was so cheesy, but it was good for the time. And so it was kind of like...
I would just like to say that I did not grow up watching that TV show.
Oh, so yeah.
He's so young. The Gen Xers.
The Gen Xers, they missed out, right?
I have since watched it, but no, I did not grow up watching it.
And so I think with this one, I was very excited. I remember watching it in the theaters. I remember loving it. I thought it was great. And I don't know if it was just the time and I wasn't paying attention to details like we are for the podcast, where we go back and we look for more things when we watch these. And I think sometimes that makes me look and pick apart a story more than I would have back in 2003 when I watched it. Because I used to love this movie. I used to think this was a great one. And in fact, I never watched The Incredible Hulk with Norton. I never saw that one. That's yeah.
Have you seen it now?
No, I still have never seen the second one. No,
dude.
No, well, I've seen clips of it. I saw the end fight like on YouTube, but that's it. Like I have never watched all of that. I've never even watched. I would say I've probably only seen maybe about 15 minutes of that show. I never went and saw it in theaters.
Watch The Incredible Hulk
because part of it was
good.
I did like how Hulk looked in this one, and I didn't like how he looked in the next one. And I do think the Hulk never looked as good as he did in Thor Ragnarok. I think he looked its best there when he fights. That was the Hulk that I wanted in all of these versions. This one, though, I remember watching little extra clips about this, and Ang Lee, he was filming the CGI for Hulk, wasn't he?
Yeah, he does the capture.
He does the Hulk capture. And the thing I liked about it was because I felt like he wanted to portray Hulk in a very different way. And I think this movie really goes deep into the psyche of Hulk, of who he is and the internal struggle that he is. It's very different than other comic book movies we've had because of that. And so I like it because it's all raw emotion, and you have to, and it's him extreme rage and just him doing all these things. And I think there's some small nuances that I really love in this show. And I think for a perfect example is when he hits the tank and gets shot by the tank he rips up the top of the tank and he gets shot through it, and he picks up the turret from one tank and he's going to smash the other tank. But you see him grab his arm. And I remember watching an extra clip where Ang Lee was filming that, motion capture for that. But he grabs his arm as if it hurt him. And just kind of taking that quick second to heal himself. And then he goes and smashes that tank to pieces with it in just absolute rage. And I like that. I was like, that's a great detail to have. He's not just an invincible guy who feels nothing. No. He felt that. Something hurt him. And it showed just a moment of him without speaking, without words and grunts. He's all he had. But you knew that there was something hurt there. And so I like that detail. But I agree with Justin. I think it could be a shorter movie now. Looking back at it. And part of it, Jennifer Connelly's great. I love her as an actress. But in this movie, she's just, I don't know. It slows it down a little too much for me.
There's a lot of slow shots on her face where the wind is blowing in her hair and she's just staring.
Yeah.
Kind of like Frodo in Lord of the Rings. We could have done with fewer shots of Frodo looking surprised.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what she was told to. Hey, we're just going to spend 15 seconds looking at your face. And it's
Jennifer Connelly, though. I mean,
well, I know, but I want to see the Hulk. I want to see the Hulk.
It's not like it's Elijah Wood over here.
So I guess, but it's good. It's good. I think this was a great depiction of Hulk. This is a way better. I still have never watched any of the Hulk, She-Hulk stuff. And so I think Ang Lee absolutely has got the one show that piqued my interest and made me want to stick around. So, okay. But Thor Ragnarok. Now, if I had Thor Ragnarok Hulk in a movie, heck yeah, I'm all on board. I'm on board with that movie.
Okay. I found it interesting, Corey, that you referred to Ed Norton's The Incredible Hulk as the second one. Because it does kind of work as a requel, as a reboot sequel. It's fuzzy enough that it could be connected. We're not technically talking about I think, though, that film was a far superior film to this film, and Norton is my favorite Hulk, and that design is my favorite Hulk design. So really? I like the way that, I absolutely love that design.
This one is cartoony. Yes.
And that's one of my biggest takeaways from this is the Hulk just doesn't look good. I don't like
He's
the
very
design.
Green.
Very green. Yeah, the color I don't like, and I don't like he's going to have a very little neck anyway, but he doesn't have enough of a neck. I know that sounds kind of weird. I don't like the shape of his head.
Very bow-legged at the same time.
Yeah, the CGI for me is by far and away the worst part of this film.
Really?
The Hulk CGI. Most of the rest of this worked for me okay. I did not like this film when I first saw it. I was bored by it. It is long and it does drag. I will absolutely agree with that. What I would sum up my thoughts on this is that it's ambitious but ultimately misguided. There's a lot of things it wants to do and it doesn't quite pull it off. It's incredibly stylish, and we're going to talk about that when we get to the cinematography. It doesn't quite work for me. But I did enjoy it more this time because I think I was looking for intentionality, and other than like really for me when the Hulk was on the screen, other than when he's breaking stuff, like you mentioned that tank scene, Corey, that's a great scene. I'm entertained by that. When he's running, I'm entertained by that. But a lot of that when he's just kind of standing there brooding, I'm bored. Like, I'm actually more interested in, like, the psychological stuff. I'm interested in some of the other things more than that because I'm being pulled out by just how silly it looks. I don't want to see him in slow motion or just standing there. I want to see it just moving fast. While he's moving, I'm okay. But while he's standing there, I'm like, yeah, I don't really care.
Well, the psychological stuff, I feel like kind of, I mean, a lot of it was like, they went the route of, like, repressed memories and things like that.
Yep.
Yes.
But I feel like they could have made it much more interesting in the way that the MCU Bruce Banner does, where Hulk and Bruce are like two separate personalities kind of like cohabitating.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Hulk was much more just an extension of Bruce Banner. They weren't like fighting for control. It very much seemed like it was Bruce as the Hulk who enjoyed the power. It wasn't a separate entity.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, not as interesting.
Yeah. Well, and the last thing I just want to say before we get into cinematography and whatnot is that I still don't like the whole thing where he's a mutant before he even gets hit with the gamma radiation. I don't like the fact that his dad experimented on him. I know they're kind of having here's the rational explanation for why he could get hit with all that gamma and he'd be okay because he'd already was a mutant before. But I really don't like that addition.
I actually thought that part worked for me because it made me look and say, because that's the only way you're going to survive that. And not that his dad did that his dad was testing him, trying to do that, mutate on him. And so I thought that worked. Oh. I just think this is kind of an example. This really dives into the struggle with Banner, like him and Jennifer Connelly and him and his dad and Nick Nolte, just the way they argue it. I mean, it really hits raw emotion. But I think when you look at this, Hulk being completely mindless to where he can't speak, that's all he does. In the Incredible Hulk TV show in the 70s, that worked. The 80s, whatever, that worked. I think that doesn't work as much anymore now. You have to have a Hulk that can talk. And I think him and Thor Ragnarok showed a great way to have a mindless Hulk talking. Was the way him and Thor argued was incredible. And I was like, that's the kind of Hulk we got. He can't just be a dumb, mindless, can't speak anymore. He's got all this muscle, but now he's got no voice box and he just grunts. Like, I need him to speak and talk like that, where real simple sentences like he did, where he argued with Thor. That was great. I need that because I think it doesn't play well on screen to make these characters not have lines and stuff because that's the way it was in the 70s or that's the way it is in the comic books. And he's got to speak a little more. He's got to have some kind of otherwise you can't just build a character only on body language.
So, Corey, do you like Thor Ragnarok? I can't quite tell.
I love Thor Ragnarok.
Okay, so here's your homework. Watch Ed Norton in The Incredible Hulk.
I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to.
A lot of the complaints that you're making, like that Hulk doesn't really talk either, but Ed Norton is a fantastic actor and did the motion capture for that too.
I will say the villain.
It's The Fugitive is what that is too. Okay. So I think they make a really interesting. They use an interesting plot device where he's on the run the entire time. That I think makes the Hulk work.
Yeah. I also think Edward Norton is the best Bruce Banner.
Agreed.
Because he does a really good job of like showing how he is trying to control his emotions and like holding it in
at the beginning. Oh my gosh!
If you don't bring him back, he can't be the best Bruce Banner.
No, that's a Kevin Feige thing.
Yeah,
it's a politics thing. That's not a talent issue.
Because the next guy, Mark Ruffalo, his whole thing is like he never like displays anger. Really, he's just always angry. Like they don't feed into the anger part of the Hulk. Really,
check out the Incredible Hulk. Okay, we got to move into the cinematography. Who wants first dibs on the cinematography? Go ahead, Justin.
Oh yeah. Oh man, they wanted this movie to look like a comic book, right?
Yes.
Yep. There it is. You stole my line.
I dig it. I love it. I want more of this in movies. That was like my favorite part of the movie.
It's cool.
I think it's also the part that gets ragged on the most in most of the reviews I was reading. But I freaking loved it. To be able to show multiple things on screen at the same time and then have like a reason to do so, I just thought was awesome. There was a particular scene there at the end when they were what were they doing? I think they went to go get the father, like Bruce Banner's father, Nick Nolte's character,
David Banner, which is a cool little nod to the TV show as well.
Yeah. And they just showed his eyes the entire scene as other things were going on the screen and other like comic booky boxes. They just showed his eyes the entire time, which I just thought was so cool. And there's just like a lot of little scenes like that where there's like wipes and fades, and it's not like, okay, Craig, I'm sorry, I hate Star Wars in the way that they do their wipes and fades.
Do you like these ones?
It looks like PowerPoint. It looks like some middle schooler.
But you liked it in this one,
how to do
the ripple waves.
But I liked it in this one because I had a reason. There were a couple times where I'm like, okay, you don't really need to do that because like it would show the same scene on like split screen, but from like a slightly different angle. I'm like, okay, that's not necessary. We don't need to see two angles of the same thing happening. But I loved it. It was so cool. First time I watched it, I didn't. This time, totally went for it. It worked. It worked for me.
I just want to say one thing before I jump over to Corey. The one thing about that I thought was interesting was that the one time you really didn't get that technique was in the Hulk versus the dogs fight. They didn't do those comic book panel thing at all during that section, which is
I think they do it during the slower scenes to kind of keep you interested. Yeah. You didn't really need that during
but even
the
like
fight.
the later fights with his dad and stuff, and even fighting against the army and whatnot.
That's true. That's
so
true.
that was like, it's not happening here. So anyway, Corey, what's some things you noticed? Images.
I agree with Justin because I thought that's one of the main things that I even had on here was the camera work was too comic booky at times, and I have to admit, but I did like a few aspects that he did with that. One was when him busting out of that, when he was deep down in that mine shaft and he was breaking out of it, and the way that they moved up levels and stuff, and he popped up and he kicked that. I don't know what it was like. The only thing I think of is called a merry-go-round. Like he kicked that thing up and jumped up to the next level, right? Do you know which one I'm talking about? Gosh darn it! Right after he breaks out of the foam, the stuff that the foam they were going to rocket him. The guy hit him with the rocket. Anyway, so like the way he filmed all that in there, I thought was great. The part of him running in the desert with the missile shooting at him, I thought was cool. How he caught it and how they did that. But the thing that frustrates me, and this is just a couple things. Oh, there's also a scene where this is just a camera work that I did notice. The part where he's looking at the Hummers and the soldiers are shooting him right before Jennifer Connelly calms him down and says, "Sun's getting real low, big guy." Right? The part where she's in the helicopter and she pulls out, the Black Widow's line just by opening the door, and all of a sudden he's calm and relaxed. It's a shot of the Hummers and the soldiers aiming at him, and all you see is his arm. You just see his arm in the camera. And it was kind of a cool shot. I thought, okay, here we're looking from right behind the Hulk, but we've got him just over in a third of the screen, just his arm. And I thought it was cool. But the thing about it, I think there's some hokey things in some of his camera work. The comic book part takes away too much, especially the way that one guy dies after shooting him with the little missile.
Yeah, that took me out too.
And the way the screen paused as he burned alive, like that whole stuff there caught me, and I was like, oh gosh.
Yeah, that shot.
It didn't play well. It didn't age well. I don't think it played well.
I don't think it was good when it came out.
Oh,
it definitely hasn't aged
well.
well.
It was weird because they didn't do anything like, not that I noticed, they didn't do anything like that shot where they just cut him out.
Right.
Yeah. And I feel like that was kind of alone. They didn't do that anywhere else.
That was comic booky, straight out of a comic book.
Yeah.
But I think it's a little too hokey. It doesn't translate well now with some of the things that I've seen in some of the shots. So, but I do like it. I like the flashback scenes, the way he tells the story. I like that we're behind Hulk a lot of times as he's standing there looking at he's looking at the old ruins and stuff where his dad tested on him. There's a shot where Hulk's standing there and we're behind him looking. And so we're like in my thought, I was like, oh, we're on a journey with him, revisiting his old place when he landed there. But again, looking at it now, having seen all these other Hulks, the camera work, I think Hulk's too short and boxy and kind of looks small.
Yeah.
You know, I think his proportions are off now. But when I saw it, I loved it. I thought it was great because I felt like it was a better take than the Incredible Hulk TV show. So I don't know. I guess if you asked me to do a podcast back then and asked me to do a podcast now, I would have two very different descriptions of it. But so I think the camera work could be the CGI part that throws me off a little bit.
Okay.
What about you?
Yeah, a couple things I really like off the top. The opening and end credits are in Comic Sans. I think that's pretty great.
You as an ELA teacher think that's pretty great.
Oh, I think it fits with the what you're trying to do. Like you're absolutely trying to like make it a motion comic, and I think that's just kind of fun that they would use that.
I noticed a lot of the not only the credits but the handwriting in the beginning.
Oh yeah,
was also Comic Sans.
Just
like when he's writing in his like little science.
Is that Peter Parker
notebook.
doing? It's the same guy who did Peter Parker's comic costume designs. Color was obviously a big thing in this one. I really like though, even though I didn't like the fact that his dad had mutated himself and then that gene had passed on to Baby Bruce. But when he started making Baby Bruce angry, and then like little green flat, like kind of subtle green, almost looked like bruises would rise up on his legs and stuff. I thought that was kind of cool. Just as like foreshadowing. There's lots. Obviously, the two main colors for the Hulk are green and purple, and those colors are everywhere in this film. A couple of places. I mean, obviously, they're in like a lot of the lab stuff. You're looking at like cells and whatever that you're seeing the two colors together. One that I thought was kind of interesting was when his dad visits him in the hospital and he's in the hospital bed. There's a green and purple blanket. The way that the lighting is in that scene where like in the green's on the top and purple's on the bottom, which kind of mimics the torso and the pants thing. I thought that was very much on the nose, but kind of interesting.
I want to know where he got those purple pants. They reference it in the other movies, but in this one, it's like you're just wearing purple pants, my man. Where'd those come from? I don't know.
Yeah. Another thing that I thought was interesting is as much as this, it's kind of grounded as well in a lot of ways, other than obviously the CGI with the Hulk. But in the lab, in desert-based lab, there are some very bright reds and blues and bright yellows, which again make it look like that comic book panel, which I thought was kind of an interesting choice. And then just the last couple things I wanted to say, camera work wise, was there's a lot of rack focus, which again you're looking at one subject, you focus on one thing, and then you focus on something else that's in the screen. Very stylized with a lot of that stuff, kind of almost like a copy and paste, or cut and paste a lot on that. And then the last thing, we talked about close-ups already a little bit. A lot of the shot counter shots, like when two characters are having a conversation, it'll show one guy's face and then it'll flip and show the other guy's face. Super close, like uncomfortably close. Did you guys notice how close the camera was? Like the face is filling the screen. There's like no background at all. And a lot of these conversations are uncomfortable conversations. I think specifically the one with David Banner and Betty Ross, and they're having this conversation about what's going to happen with Bruce and what you can do or whatever. And it's super close and like ridiculously uncomfortable.
That was very really uncomfortable. Sorry, Justin, go ahead.
Oh, I just don't want to be able to count the actor's pores. I'm good. I'm good without that.
Really close. All right, anything else on visuals before we talk about the sound?
I actually had a question on one of the visuals. So there is a scene, right after he transforms and like beats the crap out of Talbot for the first time in the house. Talbot gets thrown away in a hilariously bad CGI moment where he gets thrown and like it looks like it's PlayStation graphics and he hits the ground and it turns into him instead of the bad graphics. And there's like a puddle of water in front of his face. Hulk jumps away, and then several moments later the puddle of water kind of ripples as kind of like Jurassic Park style. And I watched that scene over and over, and for the life of me I cannot figure out why the water ripples. Did anyone else catch that?
Sonic wave from his size hitting, running.
When he landed somewhere, I guess.
I don't know. It was like a weird time, and it wasn't like incredibly obvious that that's what had happened. I don't know. I was confused. I didn't know if it was like, because his nose was kind of next to it. Maybe it was him breathing to show that he's still alive. But I don't know. I just kept watching. I'm like, why did they put that in there? Anyway, no. Okay, no answer. Cool.
No idea. So sound effects, soundtrack, vocal sounds. What do you guys notice?
I am sad that this soundtrack was wasted on this movie because it's really good. It's like really emotional in some portions. When he's fighting his dad at the very end and like getting kind of like slapped from cloud to cloud to cloud, that part's fairly emotional as it's going through like his memories, and the soundtrack adds quite a bit to that. Yeah, and it's just sad that it was used here. It sounds reminiscent of something else. I couldn't put my finger on it. I mean, it sounds a lot like the Spider-Man because
there's a little
Danny
bit of that,
Elfman, right?
Yeah.
But no, I thought it was fantastic. There was a couple scenes though where the sound seemed a little off, like, or the soundtrack, I guess. In particular, when he is in, what city is that? San Francisco. As he turns back into Bruce, and like all the soldiers come out and surround him, and as he's hugging Betty, it gets a little triumphant. I don't know if anyone else picked up on that. Like, it sounds very much like, we succeeded, we did this thing, we won, yay.
Yeah.
But it's a sad moment. The music didn't reflect the tone. I thought that was kind of odd. There was a couple times where I felt that as well.
Yeah, and it feels like it's the end of the movie when it's not.
Yes, and I think that's why what I said earlier about like the third act feeling weird.
I always forget. I'm like, there's more?
Yeah, there's more? Should there be more? I feel like we should have wrapped it up by now. No? Yeah. Okay.
Post-credit scene, maybe. Corey, what about you? What are some
the soundtrack, I guess, gosh dang it, I never can keep track of many things. I'm just too single-focused. But I do like the effect with him in the mirror when he does that scene where he's wiping away the mirror. And I like how they showed that visual where his like one finger for the Hulk was his hand moving it, right? And I liked that part. I liked how he grabbed him out of the mirror. I thought that was a good scene, kind of like the Hulk reaching over and taking over kind of thing. And so I felt like those kind of effects that they did were really good. I like the vocal sounds where, I mean, Hulk yells at him or says to him, "puny human" or something at that point. Like, right? We heard that part. I thought it kind of made me reference when he said puny human. I didn't realize he had said that. I thought it made me reference of puny god when he slams Loki in the Avengers. So I think for that part, I think the special effects are just a little kind of not aging as well as the Iron Man stuff did around that time. But I think it's great. I do love Nick Nolte's raspy voice in this movie. I think he is.
Oh my goodness!
I think he is an incredible villain, and this is kind of one of those movies. Like, Nick Nolte is only great in a few movies that I've ever watched him. Like, I mean, he's a great actor, and a few movies that I've seen him in, I'm like, just like love him in. And this is one of the ones I love him in. I think he's a great bad guy in this because he is so scraggly and gross and terrible.
I have some notes on that. Yeah,
but every scene he's in is creepy. When he's the janitor, he's creepy, right? when he's talking to Jennifer Connelly at his house, his voice and everything just makes you feel uncomfortable. And then when he's making fun of Bruce and they're arguing about, "I should have killed you," and "No, I should have killed you." Like, it's just, it's creepy. And so
his raspy voice is so good, right?
Yeah. I mean, how else do you describe it? Only Nick Nolte can pull that off at that time.
He was in like a different film than everybody else. Like, I want more of him. He was by far the best.
Well, see, I was going to say this later, but I'll say it now. Like, I wonder, from mugshots and stuff of Nick Nolte, did he just like walk onto the set and they hired him?
Like he was a janitor cleaning something, and they were like, "Hey, we got to roll."
His hair and beard, like, that's Nick Nolte all the way.
I think he just showed up.
He didn't sit in a makeup chair. That's just him.
No. And it's kind of one of those things where you want to say, okay, is that slide scale of acting where we talk about that, or is that vocal sounds? Because I feel like he's both. He is so good at that.
Yeah.
Right. Like his sound of his voice fits very well. And I think his delivery of his lines, he acted a touch above everybody else. Like if you could go recast some people, I get that, Justin said, but not Nick Nolte. You're keeping him.
No. Yeah. He seemed very much like a man that had his life together at one point and then has just gone off the deep end. And he reminds me of every homeless man I've ever met.
Yeah.
Like
Much like regular Nick Nolte.
He used to be a leading man, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This might be his story. He might really...
No, maybe he wasn't even acting. Maybe they're just like, hey, you, get over here, say some stuff.
Between his voice and Sam Elliott's voice in the vocal sound effects area,
I love
like
Sam
the
Elliott.
sounds here are incredible. You know? So that's what I got for that part. I do love some of the effects, though. The tank scene, some of that stuff. I think they do a great job with that part. So, but the soundtrack again, I never pay attention. It is my flaw, Craig. I cannot split my brain and focus half on the music that's going and then the other half. But I do agree with Justin. The scene at the end where they're flying through the clouds, that was powerful. That was riveting. And when he says, "You want my power? Take it all," like that whole aura that's going on in there with the sounds and everything is powerful. I think that's a pretty good, powerful moment. So it does its job.
Well, I do have some stuff.
Go ahead.
Of course you do.
Teach us.
Of course
Teach
you
us.
do.
Let me get the notebook.
Okay. So
I don't even try with this section anymore.
My favorite
It's just all
sound
Craig.
effect is right after Bruce is hit with the gamma radiation. And if you didn't catch it, go back and check it out. There's like a nuclear blast, which then kind of melds into a heartbeat. But it's both,
Yes.
which is fantastic. Like the blast mutates into a heartbeat. It's great. It's Danny Elfman's score, as Justin mentioned. I thought it's really interesting. It starts with like high woodwinds, which is not what you'd expect, and I think that's probably, Justin, what you're picking up with like the Spider-Man stuff with like the high strings type of thing, with like kind of the creeping thing, which I thought was interesting. So you have this high woodwinds, which is very contrasted with the Hulk's power. Like you don't expect this kind of light and kind of airy, hairy sound, but then it does build to this very frantic percussion. That's what you're thinking drums when you think the Hulk. But you hear that's the main title. You hear that it's a leitmotif. You hear it weaved in and out multiple times. Sometimes there's some choral stuff in there too, which I think is really interesting. And I would absolutely say, Justin, that I had as one of my notes that this might be one of the film's stronger aspects. That the score is great. Like I had no notes on the score.
The choral stuff seemed out of place. No.
Well, there was an earlier composer, and then that got replaced, and so that might have something to do with it. And some of it worked for me, and some of it didn't. But what did work for me, there's a track called Hulk's Freedom, which you can probably remember what it is. It's where he's running and he's jumping, like the full extent of his jumping powers, and there's like this whole heavy percussion and then just like Middle Eastern vocalizing happening as he's just completely just jumping from place to place. This extended Hulk is running and jumping sequence. So I thought that was pretty great.
Can we just talk about Nick Nolte more? Honestly, like I just want to watch.
Let's go down.
I just want to watch a YouTube clip of all of his.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and start with dialogue, and then we'll get down to some other performance beats. Any lines of dialogue?
The dialogue I felt was kind of all over the place too. Like Eric Bana, I don't think was a good fit for this role. There were parts where I was like, yeah, he's doing a great job. He's doing like good delivery on these lines, but then there are just some incredibly awkward spots, and I know a lot of it is the writing, but some of it's the delivery. Like when he first comes back from his first transformation, and he tells Betty that it all felt like a dream, like a really vivid dream, and then he says that line of like, I forget what he's referring to, but he goes boom, 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 and I'm like, oh, that's so weird and corny. And like if I was Betty at that moment, I'd be like, is there medication you should be taking more or less of, Bruce? Like what's going on here? Like it was just
corny.
Odd.
Yeah,
some of it's corny, and I don't think Eric Bana pulls it off a lot of time. And I like him as an actor, He does good in other stuff. I really like him in Troy. I know.
This is my least favorite role of his, and I think this is like the first thing that he's Australian, right? And I think this is his first American film, at least the first mainstream big starring role. But I like him he's great in Munich. I like him in Star Trek, but this is kind of. Justin, you look confused.
What, Eric Bana was in Star Trek?
Yeah, he plays Nero in 2009 Star Trek.
Oh my gosh! Yes, you're right.
Told me it didn't happen. I watched it happen. That guy.
That's right. Yeah, hello, Christopher. That's a great line. I love that.
He does such a good job that I forget he's in that movie.
Yeah, hi, Christopher. Really I'm Nero. Yeah,
he's awesome.
I just don't think he plays angry well, because him in this and him in Troy he was great in Troy, but also him angry is terrible. He's just not a good angry.
Spielberg series. You'll see him in Munich, and that'll might change your mind.
No, he does a good Nero. He's angry as Nero, and he's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's the writing. I don't know. Oh man, I am getting chills. I forgot how good he is as Nero.
That's true.
Well, I had a line that I liked, and I'll throw this out. The scene that should be the end of the film in San Francisco.
Are you going to steal my line, Craig? Craig's going to steal my line.
Am I?
Dang it. Go for it, Craig.
Where he says, "You found me?"
Dang it, Craig.
Is that it? Well, then
I was going to pull a Corey on this line.
Oh, that's so good. He says, "You found me." And she says, "You weren't that hard to find." And then he says, "Yes, I was." Yeah. He's not talking about physically.
He's not talking about physically.
You're
metaphor.
Yeah, you found
English teacher.
Metaphor.
That's right.
Sun's getting real low, big guy.
No,
not this movie,
I love
Corey.
that line because there are legitimate people like that in our lives, right? Where
absolutely.
We feel like this person found me, this person sees me, this person recognizes me.
That's the thing about this film that I liked this time around. The action sequences were less than the priority for me. Because I'll just watch Citizen Kane. I'm into a little bit at this point. I'm kind of into more dramatic stuff, and I'll go for the ride on the psychological, the journey that we're doing here. And so I'm like, that works.
Yeah, I really like that line.
All right, I got to throw one out here, but here's the thing. This is a little different take than what I've done. I'm going to say the entire, except for the screaming, the entire scene where he's chained and his father's chained right before his father bites the power cable.
Dang it, Corey, you took mine too.
That entire section, and again, this is Nick Nolte, not Eric Bana in that scene. It's Nick Nolte in that scene, because he is all over the board with 5 different things that he speaks that you could have a whole entire speech on, just in that whole area, right? Like he sits there and says, "You want to go ahead and cry? Crying will do you good," right? And then he flips it and says, "I came here to see my son, my real son, the one inside you. You're nothing but a superficial shell, a husk of flimsy consciousness, ready to be torn off at a moment's notice." We couldn't write that today without AI. Back then, they wrote all of those extra descriptive words in there without an AI. That's incredible. Just that whole spot. But then he comes right back again, though. Hold on. He goes, "You see those guys out there with their uniforms barking and swallowing orders and flicking their petty rule over the entire..." These are just entire monologues, right? About, we can make them, their flags, their anthems, and their governments disappear in a flash. And then he says, "Indeed, you shall die, be reborn a hero," right? The kind that walked the earth long before the pale religions of civilization, right? And then, "Stop your bawling, you weak little speck of human trash." This entire scene was incredibly powerful monologues, right? Am I wrong here? I can't just say one line here. This is an entire 5-minute monologue of powerful quotes.
Yeah, give that man an award just for that scene. And
Christmas.
Unfortunately, really contrasts how poorly Eric Bana does, because he's just sitting there whimpering the entire time.
He's just drooling over his handcuffs. Listen.
Yeah.
And if you read these
and the
lines,
dad nails it on the head. "Stop bawling, you weak little speck of human trash."
Yes. And you read these lines as an actor, you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, there's so many words. How am I going to act through this whole..." These are paragraphs, right? So you have to monologue this paragraph, but there are an incredible amount of words in here and descriptions. And I don't think, other than Jack Nicholson's "you can't handle the truth" moment, this is a speck of absolute great delivery of lines right here that are just powerful words that are put into an actor and turned out great. I think this scene saves this movie for me.
Okay. That's some hallowed ground, though. You're going a few good men, Corey. Come on.
I think I can make that claim.
Don't you take Sorkin's
I'd argue this.
All
right. Anyway. All right. What other quotes we got?
If any of you don't remember the scene we're talking about, please just don't even bother watching the whole movie. Just go to the end of the movie and you'll see Bruce Banner and his father kind of sitting in darkness. And oh man,
that doesn't make any sense to me either.
That was
it. Also for the entire army sitting there watching them, and you're just gonna let this guy monologue. He's obviously leading up to something. Have none of these guys ever seen a Bond
cable
movie?
right there? Come on.
The power cable right there. He just screams, "I'll go, you watch me go," and then grabs it and bites the power cable.
Yeah.
What the heck? This
Plot
guy's
convenience.
Psycho.
Yeah.
You guys, those are seriously both of my lines. I loved both of those so much. Corey just took the whole freaking scene. You know how much Googling I had to do to find that scene?
So Justin, I'm gonna do one more, and I'm gonna build off something you said earlier, though, because I like what you said about the Hulk being it's not a separate personality. I think you guys have both said it at this point, and I think that this line also kind of hammers that home, where Bruce is talking to Betty in the cabin, and he says, "You know what scares me the most? It's that when it happens, when it comes over me and I totally lose control, I like it." Mm-hmm. Which is kind of cool in and of itself, but it also pretty revealing that he is aware of what's happening to him. Where I think in a lot of other versions of the Hulk story, he loses consciousness. He has no idea. That's what happens. We see that again back to Corey's point about Ragnarok. When Ruffalo wakes up, Bruce Banner wakes up, he has no idea where he is or what's been happening at all.
Yeah.
But it seems like in this, it is very much that Bruce is aware of what's happening, at least, somewhat aware. Yeah. So, what do we have?
So, do you prefer that? Do you prefer that he is Bruce in both instances, or do you prefer the split personality?
I don't like the new Hulk.
I like the split because it's Jekyll and Hyde. Yeah. That's what it's based on. So I would go back to the...
It's got to be superhero and alter ego. I can't have them both like this. I think smart Hulk is terrible. I can't see because the whole point of Hulk is the rage.
Yeah.
The unlimited power of rage. And he doesn't have it anymore. That's why in that time travel with the Avengers where he has to kind of take the shirt off and then he's all mad. Yeah. He's like, oh. He's trying to hit the car and trying to get back into character, and he can't do it. And I was like, that's the rage. We could spend a whole
episode on Endgame Hulk and why that's horrible. But
that makes me very mad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's frustrating. If you like the Hulk at all, it's frustrating.
Another question for you. So this is the only version of Hulk that gets his powers correct, which is... he gets bigger the more angry he gets. The other movies do not do that.
They did and they focus on. And he's got instant healing like Wolverine, and super speed, super jump.
I did like the speed.
Powerful. His jump and speed here were incredible. That's the part.
Yeah, they don't really do a whole lot of the jump in the other movies.
No, only one you get it in is Avengers when he saves Iron Man. That's it. I don't remember any other time where I saw Hulk jump absolutely like that. Oh, except when he smashes Ragnarok, when he smashes Thor's face, but that's it.
No, they also do it in what's the one with Ultron? Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's true too. He jumps up there.
We're focusing on
so body language, facial expressions, costumes, hair, makeup, anything that you guys note from that. I have a few things that I wanted to talk about.
I think the proportions are wrong. Back in the time, I liked the way the Hulk was because he had this awkwardness to him. But now, the way his arms are carried, I think, are off. So his proportion feels too squatty to me. Yeah. But I love the body language that Ang Lee gave him. I love how he grabs his arm when the tank hits him. I love how he's running. And when he starts to run and then realizes he can jump, it's faster to just jump, kind of as a way of flying instead of running. He jumps, hop, big hop. It's kind of at that point he realized, no, I just need to jump to where I'm going. And so I feel like that body language was good because it showed us, it delved into what his powers were without having to explain what those powers were,
I never noticed it until I watched it this time, but there is a scene where he's ripping apart a tank, and he has the barrel of the tank in between his legs, and he rips up the turret and the barrel hits him right in the nethers.
Oh, I didn't notice
and
that.
he like groans for a second. He's like gets really mad. And
I've
he
missed that.
chucks
I'll
it.
have to check that next time.
I have never seen that part. It's like
That's
a
a nice
blink and
detail.
you'll miss it, but yeah, he hits himself right there. So apparently he's not that invulnerable.
Oh, nice.
And then so
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
well,
no.
I just think Sam Elliott. Do you think his eyebrows and mustache should have had their own credits, like end credits?
Sam Elliott
again,
and Sam
this is
Elliott's
the-
mustache.
This is the tightest his mustache has ever been. Like, it is not the traditional Sam Elliott mustache at all.
He makes up for it though with the eyebrows.
Sure.
They're huge.
Yes.
I love them.
Yeah. Oh, Sam Elliott's fantastic. And so that kind of leads me to one of the couple things I wanted to talk about. As much as this is about trying to get Bruce, Bruce being angry turns him into the Hulk, and like it's his rage is the focus. Both Sam Elliott and what's his name? The guy that plays Talbot. It's skipping my brain right now.
Josh Lucas.
Josh Lucas. Thank you. They both have a couple of scenes with Banna where they are the absolute, just on the verge of just exploding rage-wise. The first time that General Ross, Sam Elliott's character, is interrogating Bruce, like you could just see, and again, you get to see his eyebrows up, those really uncomfortable close-ups. Like he is just furious and about to pop. And then when Talbot is trying to get him to turn into the Hulk, he's the one that's losing control, which I thought was really kind of an interesting dichotomy between those two things, where the guy who's super calm is the one who they're trying to get angry, and they're going super angry to try and get him that way.
You know what I thought was weird is Sam Elliott or Ross, I guess, when he's interrogating Bruce Banner, he's mad at Bruce for not remembering something that happened when he was 4 years old.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want, man?
Yeah.
How could you not remember?
Yeah.
What the heck?
Because your dad killed your mom, man.
Well, yeah. I do
I
think
feel like if you're 4, you're not expected to remember stuff.
I do think Sam Elliott was a good Ross. I have not seen the new Captain
yeah.
America yet. I think we'll be able to judge Harrison Ford on that, right? But I think
I'm judging him right now. No, he's not.
I think Sam Elliott was better than the other guy that they had.
I like William Hurt too, but Sam
William Hurt.
Elliott's-
Like I think Sam Elliott was a good Ross. I think he's too old to be Ross now, probably, but his mustache on a Hulk would have been fantastic.
And Corey,
Mustache
again, you
Red
haven't
Hulk.
seen The Incredible Hulk. And that's where William Hurt plays General Ross, and he's fantastic in it.
I gotta Google
Yeah,
that.
You gotta stop
He's
talking
really
about
good.
that until you go see the movie. It's so good. So good. Such a good movie.
Just completely shut
He's
down.
so
Corey.
snipe-
Your opinion doesn't
No.
matter. You haven't seen the movie.
I'm looking at his mustache. It's terrible. Doesn't even fit him. Looks fake.
Okay, but
There's no
he-
Samuel Elliott.
William Hurt is a good General Ross as well. I did want to say that I thought was interesting as far as costumes goes. So Glenn Talbot, that's Josh Lucas's character. The first time that he comes in to the lab, do you guys notice he's got like a suit, but it's open collar, no tie, super casual when he comes in, and then every time after that, it's like he's buttoned up, and it's kind of like
He's got to impress Betty.
Yeah, I think it's that, but he's also trying to, again, he's trying to soft sell what he's doing before he comes in. Later on, it's like, no, I'm just taking your stuff. Where he kind of wants
I
he
think
wants
he
to do it the
literally says
easy way.
that.
Yeah. But
It's like,
it's
there's
visually
a-
showing us that way too, and through the costuming, which I thought was kind of interesting. Because it's like, you're supposed to be a professional, and you're coming in here, and you look like you just got off of work, and you're out, to go get some drinks or whatever. But I thought it was an interesting costume choice. Anything else with that facial expressions? I was just going to say, or body language, the spread eagle pose where Bruce like covers up the entire gamma sphere as much as he can to try and save Harper, I thought was really brave, and you can see it on his face too. Like he knows what's going to happen. Like I'm
He's
going
terrified.
to die to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was powerful and worked for the verisimilitude of the film. So Dan Zara, if you're listening, verisimilitude.
Yeah.
Corey, you were going to say
ahead.
something?
No, nothing. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and move us down to setting the design and just mention the first off that as a California kid, seeing a film that is set in California as a superhero, it's not in New York, was super refreshing. Like, look, the West Coast needs stuff too.
Wait, are you saying there's not enough movies set in California? Because you can just shut right up.
Superhero movies, though, dude. Superhero movies.
He goes from Moab, Utah to San Francisco, California pretty quick. When he's running out there, and then he all of a sudden
Yeah.
ends up like he's doing his jumping and flying and tracking.
This is filmed primarily in the Bay Area. So that's kind of
I have no sympathy. Listen, I'm from Arizona. I want some Arizona representation for these superhero movies. So you can just shut right up, Greg.
Yeah, well, the West Coast, period. Like, East Coast has all this stuff. There's crime in the West Coast, too.
Now you're trying to sell us on the crime of where you're from?
We need superheroes, too. But yeah, so you got a lot of it's filmed at Berkeley. That's actually Pear Lake in the Sequoia National Park. That fight where he has fights with his dad. The neighborhood where Bruce's father lives is in Oakland, just south of Berkeley, and it's also Betty's house is on the Universal Studios backlot, and it's the same one you can see in To Kill a Mockingbird. So that's fun.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow.
Can I just say his father's house was really well done. It looked very lived in and very like, this guy kind of has like a singular focus. He doesn't care about anything else other than what he is currently working on, trying to, get those powers going.
Yeah. His dogs are creepy.
I didn't like the dogs.
Don't like the dogs.
Didn't care for that.
Nope.
Don't like the whole dog thing.
Like that.
Yeah. I like the idea
weird.
behind the dogs, but I think the dogs look too cheesy.
Yeah, they look bad.
One thing I noticed this time I'd never noticed before, after Bruce hulks out and then he's back at, I guess it's his place, or maybe might be Betty's. There's like this huge pile of food on the table, which I'm assuming he's like eating to recover, like his blood sugar and stuff. And it's like,
yeah, he's eating that very disgustingly too.
Yeah,
did not enjoy those sounds.
I don't remember
there.
that. Like I remember, from the Flash and the Flash TV show from 1990, that was like a big thing. I had to eat a lot of food, but I don't remember seeing that. And I guess that would make sense. He probably burned a whole lot of calories. I really like the Gamma Sphere. I kind of mentioned that earlier. That big round ball.
Yeah,
I thought that was kind of a cool.
Yeah.
Pop. The Kodak pictures there's some things that make this film dated. Like the huge monitors and then the Kodak picture, and then all of a sudden he steps into it. That was another creepy effect. That didn't like that. Like, I'm looking at a picture of Betty and now I step into it. How does that work?
Yeah, I don't know. Especially like if you would do that more in the film, maybe I'd be okay with it. But just to have like random one-offs,
Yeah.
It was weird. The other thing that dated it too for me at the end was they had that iMac that Betty was using in her lab.
Yeah.
That old like adjustable monitor iMac with like the clear mouse back in the early 2000s when like all technology just had clear plastic on it. Mm-hmm. That was strange.
Anything else? Setting design, locations. That's a real base too. Like the entrance there. I was going to mention that too. That's the Naval Air Weapons Station in China Lake. When they go in, that's pretty impressive. Like they actually went in there. But then, of course, underground is Universal Studios. Okay, let's talk about characters. We talked about Bannon a lot. Bannon was not the first choice for this role.
Who was first choice for this role? I need to know.
I'm not sure if he was first, but Billy Crudup was one of the ones that turned it down. He's been in lots of stuff. He's currently in the Morning Show. He was Dr. Manhattan in Watchmen. Been in lots of things.
Billy Crudup, I like him, but I couldn't see him.
Oh, he is also in Alien. What's the Covenant?
Yes, he's in Alien Covenant. Absolutely.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
He kind of looks like Eric.
He's a really good actor.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, he's in Almost Famous, Big Fish. He's a lot of things where like he's more like, I know who that guy. I don't know his name, but I've seen him in lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently,
like
at one point, Johnny Depp was under consideration, as was Steve Buscemi.
That would have been weird.
David Duchovny, and Jeff Goldblum also auditioned for the role.
Jeff Goldblum.
Yes, please.
Then I would not have had him in Thor Ragnarok. I absolutely love and adore him in Thor Ragnarok. It was Jeff Goldblum acting like Jeff Goldblum.
If he was in Thor Ragnarok, that would have been like such a cool Easter egg.
Oh, it kind of would have been.
Oh man!
Apparently, Ed Norton at one point was interested in this film too, and then this is my favorite though. Tom Cruise was offered the role but turned it down.
Tom Cruise?
I could see that.
Yeah, absolutely Tom Cruise.
He would have to do the motion capture for the running parts for sure.
Oh my gosh! Google Tom Cruise Hulk. The fan art is incredible. Oh, that might not have been bad.
I think he would have nailed it. Tom Cruise is a good actor.
Tom Cruise is a great actor. I love me some Tom Cruise.
Okay, don't Google Tom Cruise Hulk. It's really weird.
We did. Speaking of the Incredible Hulk TV show, Corey, you saw the cameo, yes?
Yes, where he comes walking out with Stan Lee.
Yeah, Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah.
I was so proud to explain that to my son who was watching it with me.
Yeah.
I was like, let me tell you, son, about this show before my time.
Yeah.
Anything else? Oh, we talked about. There's not a huge cast for this one. I think we've talked about just about everybody.
I think the best. Nick Nolte's the best part of this movie that I love. I mean,
no,
I love Nick Nolte in this movie.
I don't like him.
And
wait, what?
I don't like him. No, I don't.
Did you say this earlier? Why?
He takes me out of it. I don't like.
Why?
Because
he's just better than everyone else.
He's just.
Do I need to remind you of his monologuing? I mean, that was incredible.
I think you need to remind him. Corey.
No. For me, Sam Elliott is the best part of this movie, and Jennifer Connelly, but that's for different reasons.
Oh, Craig, never since the Martha part have I disagreed with you more.
That's fine.
Oh my gosh.
Or maybe Beth on Yellow.
No, he's way over the top.
If you look at pictures of Nick Nolte now, he looks exactly like he did in the Hulk.
That's what I'm saying. I think he just walked onto the set.
He did not.
Fantastic.
He did not change at all.
Corey, let me ask you this. So Nick Nolte plays a character called David Banner, which the name was not from the comics. Did that throw you at all, having been a fan of the TV show? And do you know what I'm talking about?
No. I have no idea. See, but this is why you have all this history. I watch these things.
But you watch the Incredible Hulk TV show,
like here and there. I was a little kid. I didn't. But see, it's different because I didn't think of who his dad was or how it was. No,
that's not the point. The point is that in the TV show, the Hulk's alter ego is not Bruce Banner. They changed the name to David Banner. It's in the opening monologue.
I forgot about
the little opening narration. David Banner, blah 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 blah. Yeah. So when they say Nick Nolte's playing David Banner, you're like, what? And then
I never knew that. I never even caught that on. I've never once caught that.
Just go to YouTube and watch the opening of the Incredible Hulk, and you will see they will call him David Banner.
Why did they change the
David Banner, not Bruce Banner. So that's a thing. All right.
Why?
I don't
answer.
Oh, well,
why did they change
I don't know why. But
okay.
Maybe one of our listeners knows.
There's some reasons.
Hero's journey, fits the pattern pretty good, I'd say.
Who's the dad of the mentor?
Well, I mean, it depends on how you look at it, though, because you also have the struggle with the father. That's a big part of it too. So, like the father is his first mentor. They don't always have to be in the same order.
Bad mentor. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's more of like a psychological death, not a.
Yes, and I mean most of the journey is a psychological one. Dealing with repressed memories and childhood trauma and whatnot.
I don't think this does the hero's journey because there's no like refusal of the call. There's no like really accepting of the call at any point either. Like.
Yeah, you make a point. You make a point.
Well, he's thrust into a circumstance. It seems like he's a little bit. It depends on how much he's in control of the Hulk, I suppose. I mean, he does, go and save Betty and all of those things. It's loose. It's loose, but I think it's there to a degree.
You know what? Agree to disagree, except for the Nick Nolte part. You're just wrong because he was amazing.
Fine, it's fine. World building. I said that I think it feels mostly grounded, but again, the visual effects, specifically the Hulk itself, takes me out of the story. When I see him, especially in broad daylight,
I thought the Hulk was good.
Nah, it's
Except he was too green, but I
the
thought he
coloring
was pretty good.
Way off. And when you see, and I think that's part of the design. When you see Norton's Hulk is the most. I don't want to say realistic, but like if you look, like the muscling and stuff is not cartoony. It's what an extension of a human body would look like, Corey. I don't know if you've seen pictures of it, but it's not.
I'm looking at a photo of it. Yeah, the comparison.
Yeah,
you sure that's not the Tom Cruise Hulk? Sorry.
No.
So here's the big question. So for world building, does this fit, or would it fit in our established continuity of the other films we've watched so far?
Maybe that's why they put it on the West Coast.
This is what I'm saying.
So that way it doesn't run in with Spider-Man.
Does it fit though? I mean, I think it does.
I think it does. Like to be a part of the MCU. Like
pre-MCU.
The pre-MCU. I think this is a good origin story. There's a post-credit scene, isn't there?
No.
I guess I didn't stay around on a post-credit scene. I just assumed there was. Oh no, it was Iron Man that did the first one. I was thinking,
no, that's not true.
Is it? No, which
that's
one
the
has
first one in the MCU. We'll get there.
It's the Daredevil.
Okay, because I was thinking,
Daredevil had a mid-credit scene.
Yeah.
Oh, mid-credit.
I thought this one had a mid-credit scene with Tony Stark coming in, but
dude,
maybe
that's the Incredible Hulk. Corey,
go
watch the.
See, I got them all mixed up. See, this is why I got them all mixed up, Craig, because I never watched that one. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Corey, between now and the next time we record, please
I'm
watch
the
Incredible
Hulk.
I
may have to. It's all messed up and jumbled.
No, because
in
that fact that it has Tony Stark in that was a huge thing. Because oh my gosh, they're in the same universe. That was the first time we actually got confirmation of that.
Yeah, the
first time ever.
One thing yeah. I'll save that for final thoughts.
A quick, I guess in my brain, how this exists in the same universe as Spider-Man, X-Men, Blade, and all that, is seeing the mutant dogs and seeing the Hulk and seeing Absorbing Man. I don't feel like the normies reacted all that surprised. Like, they were kind of surprised, but I don't think there was as much as a surprise as if that were to happen for the first time. So it's almost like they were used to this world where superheroes and stuff exist.
Yeah.
Kind of makes it seem like it could very easily exist.
Yeah.
Because no one was like, oh my gosh, what is that thing?
They're all snapping pictures in downtown San Francisco or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think about that until now. That's a good point. All right, let's go ahead and go down to final thoughts. Corey, you looks like you had some final thoughts already brewing.
Well, I think it's a good movie. I like this one. I think it hasn't held up as well as some of the other movies of this time. I think that throws me off. The main thing I think that this movie does get right, it kind of showcases some Hulk abilities. It kind of showcases some Hulk awkwardness in his movements. But it kind of shows an inner turmoil with the Hulk character. Just him trying to really navigate some horrible things in his life that have set him up so that he could absorb those gamma rays. But then at the same time, the struggle of trying to figure out his identity and his origin. So my big thing is I do like a movie that hits the ground running, and maybe I would like the Incredible Hulk sequel or requel, whatever you want to call it. I might like that more because then I don't have to sit through another 60 minutes of origin story and backfill to try and get to my character. That's one of the reasons I love the Blade movies we did. I love some of the X-Men stuff where we knew people had powers and we accept it and moved on. I don't need to get all the psyche of everything so I can really understand the character. Like I don't need that. I know what he's got some powers. Demonstrate those powers. Demonstrate some of the cool stuff of them, and build from there. We
don't need to see Uncle Ben die.
I don't. I don't have to kill Uncle Ben again. But I do think that it does culminate in an epic battle at the end with Nick Nolte with some great monologuing and a nice little power control harnessing back and forth between two supernatural villains. So in the end, it's a good movie. It's a good movie. I like it.
Okay.
Other than Thor Ragnarok, this is my second favorite Hulk.
Until you watch The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. We'll see.
Report back. Justin.
Sometimes my opinion changes when we have these little get-togethers. Yeah. That is not the case this time. I still don't know how to feel about this movie. Yeah. I think you said it best, Greg, when you said it's not. Dang it. It's less than the sum of its parts. Like, it has so many good parts, but it just doesn't quite do it. Except for Nick Nolte, of course. Give that man an award of some sort. I don't know what kind.
Give him a hot meal and a shower.
Also, yes, but he worked it, man. Anyway, no, I just it was a fun watch. I'll watch it again.
Yeah,
for sure. And it's fun to speculate in our pre-MCU world building era. I don't know.
Yeah.
No deep thoughts here.
Okay. I will just say, I like I said earlier, I like it more now than I did before, but I think some of that has to do with how we're so oversaturated with comic book movies in the last few years, and a lot of them are pretty mediocre. And this is at least trying to do something interesting. If nothing else, it's interesting visually. It's got a 63% Rotten Tomatoes, and that feels about right.
Yep.
You know, it's not awful. It's not great. It's a little bit long, drags in spots. Certain parts I really liked of this film.
Yeah, I had to double check to see if I watched like a director's cut or something, because I'm like, I feel like some of this just shouldn't
and that's
be in
I
here.
think just pacing and editing, like you'd mentioned earlier. One thing that I did like about this too, this is kind of my final thing I want to say though, is just, you know, I like how it kind of looks at fathers and children, and you have this kind of comparison. You have, you know, Bruce and his father, and that's awful from the beginning, but he does find closure in that. But then you also kind of see that the Betty and her dad seem to find some kind of peace, and they reconcile. At least to find they're not, you know, super close, but they have an understanding, and I think that it's not hostile. That they've kind of come to an understanding, and I like that, how that ended the film.
Yeah, that father-son aspect just really wouldn't be the same without Nick Nolte. You're right. Freaking nails it.
Perfect. So on that note, we just want to say thanks so much for listening. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on X, Instagram, and Facebook, and now Blue Sky. Email us at readingbetweenreels@gmail.com, or use the SpeakPipe app on our website. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and review us on iTunes or Spotify. And one last thing, our next episode will be a review of The Punisher. Send us an email or voicemail about your favorite moments from The Punisher, and we'll share it on the next episode.